right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting for Monday, September 16th. I'll now call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Schultz.
Here.
Latta.
Here.
Cruz.
Here.
Hallbaker.
Here.
Ganfield.
Here.
Chrisman. Here. Dunn. Here. All members present, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And if willing and able, could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, everybody. And do we have a motion to approve the regular minutes of September 3rd?
So moved.
Second. Been motion seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Madam Clerk, any agenda revisions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there was a Scrivener's error on item number 19 of the resolution calendar. Council has been provided with an updated agreement.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. 19. All right, we'll move to special presentations. So I know, Council, I'm breaking my rule here about proclamations. So we do have one that we're going to do here this evening, specifically because it is for U.S. Constitution Week. And Barb, it sounds like we've done this for quite a while at the City Council meeting, and it seemed appropriate to do for City Council. So I'll meet you up there.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come. September 17th begins the National Celebration of Constitution Week, which runs from September 17th through September 23rd. The week-long commemoration of America's most important document is one of our country's least known official observances. Our Constitution stands as a testimony to the tenacity of Americans throughout history to maintain their liberties and freedom and to ensure those inalienable rights to every American. The aims of the celebration are threefold. First, to emphasize the citizens' responsibilities for protecting and defending the Constitution, preserving it for posterity. Second, to inform the people that the Constitution is the basis for America's great heritage and the foundation for our way of life. And third, to encourage the study of the historical events which led to the framing of the Constitution in September of 1787. Under the Constitution, the United States of America functions as a republic. It is the oldest document still in active use that outlines the self-government of a people. This landmark idea that people had the inalienable right as individuals to be free and live their lives under their own governance was the impetus of the American Revolution. Today, the Constitution stands as an icon of freedom for people around the world. The Daughters of the American Revolution, otherwise known as the DAR, has served America for over 130 years as its foremost cheerleader. Known as the largest women's patriotic organization in the world, the DAR has over 1 million members with over 3,000 chapters in all 50 states and 15 foreign countries. The DAR has long promoted patriotism through commemorative celebrations, memorials, scholarships, and activities for children and adults, plus programs for new immigrants. We thank you for the opportunity to shine a spotlight on this important event in America's history. Thank you. Pardon?
Come around to you. Try the mic. So I will read this off for everybody so they know what we're doing. So whereas September 17th, 2024 marks the 237th anniversary of the completion of the Constitution of the United States of America by 55 delegates to the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania during the summer of 1787, And whereas the Constitution and its amendments are the foundation of our American democratic experiment, embodying the principles of a limited federal government dedicated to a rule by law, as well as safeguarding the basic rights of individuals in our republic. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designated September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. And whereas the aims of Constitution Week are to emphasize citizens' responsibilities for protecting and upholding the Constitution, to educate people on the Constitution's basis for Americans' heritage, and the foundation for our way of life, you said this part, and to encourage the study of the historical events that led to the framing of the Constitution in September 1787. And whereas it is fitting and proper for Cedar Falls to annually accord official acclamation to this document and its memorable anniversary, as well as promote celebrations and educational activities that commemorate it. Now, therefore, I, Daniel Loddick, Mayor of the City of Cedar Falls, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th to 23rd, 2024 as National Constitution Week in Cedar Falls. And I encourage all citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the Constitution through personal study and an understanding of constitutional principles, and to reflect on the privilege that the Constitution affords each of us as individuals, including not only the rights that we are afforded, but also the responsibilities that such privilege requires of us to our fellow man. And given today's political environment, we'd like to emphasize that ending part of also our responsibilities that such privilege requires us to our fellow man. So signed the 16th day of September, 2024. So, thank you, Bob. All right, thank you everyone for doing that with us. I know I had set a rule I wouldn't be doing proclamations here, but this one seemed particularly fitting, so. Okay, moving on to public forum. Public forum, speakers will have one opportunity to speak for up to 5 minutes on topics relevant to city business. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak tonight? Just your name and address, please.
Jim Kearns, 3123 Cottonwood Lane, Cedar Falls. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, Gil.
Keep your comments directed toward me, please.
I'm here as a lobbyist tonight. Now, I'm not a paid lobbyist and I'm not registered with anybody, but you know I'm an artist. I'm involved with the arts, and we recently had the Artapalooza, and it seemed like an appropriate time to come down and talk about the city budget. As you go into the fall season, go through strategic planning, budgeting process, a series of public hearings, which will lead us eventually into approval of the budget sometime in the spring. The arts are largely underfunded in this nation, and they add so much to our community. There's several aspects. One, just the aspect of community itself. Community itself is defined as a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. Well, the divisive nature that we've seen in this country over the last several years is unacceptable. If we look at the interests that we all have, we're like 90% aligned, and that 10% is driving people crazy. Well, the cultural and arts provide opportunity for people to come together and have dialogue in a non-threatening way. The Artapalooza was a great example of that. Saw many of you there. Many of the people that were out here were at the Artapalooza, and you see couples, groups talking, sharing concerns, joys, and ideas. And also had a chance to look at some art and get some of those new ideas going in their minds, what they might be able to bring to problem solving. You cannot, the value of creative thinking and problem solving is something Cedar Falls has been known for, and it's pretty amazing. The public safety, I mean, that was creative. Roundabouts, that was darn creative, you know. And bringing these things in, there, oftentimes that leadership is controversial to begin with and then becomes accepted and loved by the community. Quality of life is another aspect that probably don't really need to talk about much, other than with the arts and the quality of life. At Deere, we put together a recruitment plan, and in that plan we put together a brochure about why would a young engineer want to come to Waterloo, to the Cedar Valley, to Cedar Falls, to raise a family. And what are our values? And we try to say, well, it's a wonderfully safe community. We have great education. We value education, but also the arts. Things to do. I mean, the sports things are wonderful as well. But like Gallagher Bluedorn, the Symphony, the Hearst Center, the Artapalooza, used to have College Hill Arts Festival, which was a crown jewel in that fact sheet. We lost that. And really, I think that's unacceptable as well. So quality of life is another key aspect. Now let's talk about the economic impact of the arts. For every dollar spent at an arts event that's directly related to the arts event, there's $1 to $2 that's spent outside of that on other activities. We had people come to town from as far away, Minneapolis, Des Moines, Clear Lake, Mason City, Cedar Rapids, one couple from Nebraska. They came to Iowa, stayed at the Black Hawk Hotel. They were over at the Field of Dreams on Saturday, and then on Sunday they were down at the Artapalooza. This town is building a reputation for creativity, and we need to build on that. It'll bring people in. It's a wonderful thing. So my lobbying is, as we look at our budgets going forward, please consider adding some money, increasing the percentage that's directly related to the cultural and arts activities of the town. We need to pay these employees. These events don't happen by chance. They happen by intention. They happen by design. We have people that are paid, but there's also a large cadre of volunteers that step up. But somebody has to lead, and that generally means they're paid for what they do. So I think that's all I have written down here. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment tonight? Name and city, please.
Dennis Pruckler, 2221 Center Street, Cedar Falls. I have a little handout, if with your permission, it might help people in the council.
Go ahead.
Might help you understand a little better what I'm talking about and give you something to carry home or throw away.
Scrap it.
Basically, what I'm talking about is I've recently learned that the idea of tearing out the existing dam downtown and possibly replacing it with a whitewater park is back on the agenda. And I believe that would be taking out the wrong dam. Very few people realize that there's also a dam in the middle of Island Park that blocks a former river channel through Island Park. The top picture on the handout is an old postcard about 100 years old showing from the cemetery across the river, showing the river channel that flowed right through Island Park. That's why they named it Island Park. That channel was completely blocked in 1989 when they built a temporary road across there and then left it. And the second picture shows that roadway built across there. It's about 6 feet higher than the previous cutoff dam that had acted as a spillway on that channel. Since they built that dam, Island Park's flooded much more because there's half as much river channel to carry water around it, so it has to flow over the park instead. I believe tearing out that dam, it's about 6 feet higher than the previous one, will give the water away around Island Park again. By my calculations, it would cut flooding in Island Park by half. And we all know how much it's been flooding. We know that before 1989, the Sturgis Falls used to be held in Island Park every year. That's not been possible since then. It's flooded out more years than not. The bottom picture is artificial intelligence representation of what it could look like in Island Park if they reopen that waterway. It would have the same drop as a whitewater park built where the current existing dam is downtown, but it would be more natural. It would be flowing through woods, and it wouldn't be a commercial sort of island of whitewater park. It would be a very natural one. It could be more representative of what Sturgis Falls looked like when the first settlers came here, which was more of a rapids than an actual falls. I think it would add to the aesthetics of Island Park, cut the flooding in half, make Island Park a centerpiece for the community again. On the second page, I just listed a bunch of differences between the two models of building a whitewater park, and the one on the right, I believe, would have many advantages for our community. Economically, it would be much less expensive to build than a major water park because the waterway is already there. We just need to take the dam out that's blocking it off. It would create a natural fish passage. It would add water and create up to 7 miles of water trails, because adding a little bit of water to Stag Creek would make it high enough to go kayak all the way up to Black Hawk Park, all the way to Big Woods Lake, and potentially all the way to George Wythe Park. And that would be a major tourist attraction for both bird watchers, fishermen, non-whitewater enthusiasts. There's about 3 million whitewater enthusiasts in the country and over 50 million bird watchers. That would be, I think, an economic plus for Cedar Falls. Thank you. Any questions? I have contact information on the end of the last page if anybody wants more detail. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bruckler. Anyone else for a public comment tonight?
Let's go.
Good. Just name and address, please.
Robert Dirk, and I'm at 3209 University Drive, Cedar Falls. Here today to kind of spread some light on BMX. Extreme sports have been going around since the 70s, 80s, you know, since we could, I wasn't born then, but it's on an uprising now. So since I've been here, I kind of spread some more light on it. Went to the city and kind of relit the fire. So now I'm over there helping build the jumps over at Townsville Prairie. Really would love more help out there, maybe some funding or rezoning so we could get, you know, that help and move dirt, bring dirt in. On top of that, while we're out there, you know, kids, the traffic are coming in and out. It's more traffic than I've ever seen. Been here for like 2 years. And you know, you get comments and concerns of others that are out there. We need more help for sure. That, and everybody loves it. It's just me and a couple guys, and we started giving away bicycles as well. Started a nonprofit called Share the Stoke. Co-founder over here, Jake Clark. We've been working together trying to get that to launch off too. So we're out there and bringing more kids in, more traffic over and over and over again. And it's just becoming a part of our daily life and routine, but it's also becoming a burden because when do we have the time to stay out there and keep the upkeep? So we're just like trying to spread that awareness and get that out to you guys to see, like, you know, take some time, go out there, walk around, check it out. It's not what it used to be. It's amazing right now. And with BMX coming up, we'd love to see more BMX friendly features out and around about the city so we can stay off your stair steps and your rails. You know, I'll plead the fifth. But with that being said, too, maybe another park that's BMX friendly. Our park is, you know, it's seen better days. I've heard stories how BMX, it used to be huge out here, real huge. And, you know, you had it over at the Cattle Congress, all over the place. Professionals are coming out of here. Let's see that again. And with that being said, you know, I hope I got an ear from you guys, or gave you something to listen to a little bit, and you guys heard me. I'm going to give it over to my buddy Jake here, my co-founder of Share the Stoke. If that's okay with you guys.
Yeah. Thank you. Just name and address as well, please.
Jacob Clark, 5463 Tucson Drive in Waterloo, Iowa. As Robert said, I'm a co-founder of Share the Stoke nonprofit here based in Cedar Falls. We've been doing a lot of work, as he said, out at the bike park. One of our missions is to foster the future generation of kids in the Cedar Valley. I've been a part of the action sports community for 20 plus years now. And by action sports, I mean skateboarding, BMX bikes, rollerblades, scooters. And we have a plethora of talent in this area. And our parks and facilities for those are not very adequate. These sports are beginning to be Olympic sports, skateboarding and BMX. And I think it would be amazing if we could say one day that we put forth the effort to make some very awesome parks and have a future Olympian come from Cedar Falls, Iowa. I think that would be really awesome. And I think it's totally doable. There's a lot of talent here. I know that there is, the city is working on a parks master plan right now. And I would really like to see maybe some funding and some things go more towards like the skate park and what we have been doing out at Tondro Prairie Bike Park. Between me and Robert and some of the BMX and mountain bike enthusiasts around here, we've kind of assembled a small team of volunteers and have really been putting in a lot of work to kind of bring that park back to what it was when we started it. It kind of went downhill during COVID, as everything else did. But we constantly see new kids and new faces and families down there every time that we're building, and it's a really good thing. With the skate park here in Cedar Falls, I'm sure all of you feel the same way. You drive by on the highway, it's an eyesore. And that park has been there 20 plus years. I remember when it opened. There's multiple other cities here in Iowa that have been building very nice skate parks. Des Moines, for one, has one of the world's largest skate parks. They hold events and contests and everything there. And that brings a lot of revenue to their city. And I think that can help Cedar Falls a lot too. And it'd be nice, the whole area right there the city owns where the skate park is, I think it could be a very nice park. It could look good, something to be proud of. So I just urge you guys to maybe think about that for the Parks Master Plan. And on October 19th, we are holding an event out at Tondro Prairie Bike Park. I urge all you guys to come out and check out what we got going on. We're having kids races and jump contests and kind of a Halloween themed thing. So should be fun for everybody. So thank you.
What time's the event?
It will start at noon.
What was the date, October 19th?
October 19th, yep.
Then have an event on Facebook, or where's the best place to?
Yeah, we have Tondro Prairie Bike Park Facebook, and we also have a Share the Stoke Facebook for our nonprofit. We'll be sharing all that, so. We'll also be posting flyers up everywhere, so. All right.
Only on legally allowed places
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
with proper permission. Or I'll hear about it.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Mayor, I know we usually don't have comments, but since he mentioned the Parks Master Plan, can I also put a plug in that Parks Master Plan is going to be very important to have public input. So please make sure to put your input in during those sessions, because that'll be probably one of the most vital parts of it, is to know what the public wants.
Yep, and we'll make sure I'll get your contact info so we can make sure when we get the public survey out, we can get it to you guys to send out to people too. Awesome. So, and thank you guys for all the work you're doing, because you're right, these things don't happen without, I think a lot of times people assume the city funds and does everything. A lot of stuff happens because people like you put in the work to make it happen, so thank you.
Well done.
All right, any other public comments for this evening? Just name and address, please.
Good evening. Kim Jordan, Cedar Falls. And I think it's a great night to kind of revisit some of the things that we're talking about with 515 College Street with the Sartori property, and just making sure that the nonprofit status remains the same, that we still are, making sure that the land use certificate does not expire, and that we maintain that integrity for that property for potentially a new healthcare entity to come in, and also to provide a little bit more competition. I think what we've lacked, and it's been motivational tonight to hear some of the things that people are visioning and dreaming, and especially with looking at budgets that are coming up, because it's critical to say what we say, but then to walk that line and actually fund the improvements. And when you look at the Blackhawk County online assessments, there really has not been many improvements to Sartori's property since back in 2020, it was 2011. And then there was 12/31 of 2024, or a miscellaneous with a zero value. In 23, they did an internal remodel for 1.3 million. But we have not been putting substantial monies into that facility since 2011. And I've kind of taken on a mission of looking at it prospectively, kind of as a city planner in a way, to draw in a healthcare system like Mayo to come back to the table. And by doing that, it involves looking at our transportation systems. It involves the parks and leisure, because that is a huge part of why we have healthcare for all generations, and that we would want to have a hospital of 40,000 plus to have that primary site. We also need to make sure that we're looking at energy audits and looking at the internal parts of the hospital. And those improvements really have fallen short too, whether it's been on the hospital's end of unknown or unclear expectations of them, and maybe that's a board member, information. But we can't say that it was our responsibility as a city and then expect the hospital CEO and organization is saying, no, it's the property of the city, they needed to be doing it. So I guess if we could make sure that we're collaboratively coming together with some of those. I know that when Chase took over for Ripplinger, I reached out and kind of asked to be involved when I was working with landscaping, to just express who I was and wanted to have some of those contact information so that we could kind of collaborate with those parks. Still a very big interest of mine, but it's also like the recreational part, like looking at swimming and things like that, so that aging, and when we have a need for end of life, we have the rehabilitation aspect on top of having a hospital that can take care of the emergency needs, but then also transitioning us into respite. So a full hospital, level 3 to level 1 would be ideal, especially if we could entertain the Mayo clinics and getting more specialists. So I don't want to fall short, but I do want to also let people know that we do have a helicopter pad. So that is one of the amenities that I am wanting us not to negate when we look at purchasing the new one or visiting that, because I was kind of shocked not to know that that was something that we were thinking about, especially when we already have one at that 515 College Street. And it's the perfect setup for Mayo's system as like a 45-minute out, just a little bit longer. So maybe looking at those monies going into the interior for some updates. We did have a neglect there from 2011 to 2014. And so street repairs too is on our list coming up. I'd love to see curb and gutter. And we still have Mr. Laymaster, who was in charge of the ambulance entrance off of 4th Street, still alive. He's with us over at the Western Home Communities. When my mom spent a recent stay at Sartori, he was there. So it's just those living legacies of how the community fundraised and worked together to really build our community and our hospital, and not to fall short on those promises. All right, thank you.
Excuse me, Ms. Jordan. Anyone else for a public comment tonight? All right, seeing none, we will move on to old business, staff updates. And I believe we've got one.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to provide the council with a brief update regarding, I'm going to refer to it as the Aldrich School Connections. Some of you may recall there's 3 street connections out near the new school, consisting of Arbors Drive, Ironwood, and a portion of Ashworth Drive. In the middle of 2023, I believe around July, the city came to an agreement with the private developer regarding those street connections. The agreement laid out that was intended to take place over the next 36 months. The developer has been a little behind. The engineering consultant has been a little behind with the rezoning and the preliminary plating process. We have seen infrastructure plans come in over the last month. We are working with them to address some comments on those. So I anticipate the plan sets for those three street connections over the next 60 to 90 days to get ready for a winter letting, and then likely construction would begin next spring.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, comments? Yeah.
Director Schrage, would you anticipate if that started next spring that we'd see completion by end of next calendar year?
It would depend on the contractor's schedule that would receive the bid, but given the size of the project and the scope, I would anticipate it taking 2 construction seasons.
And still anticipated to be phased approach?
Yes.
So,
Phased as in there will only work on certain sections consecutively. So being that Arbor's Drive would likely be one of the first ones that they would begin on.
that's the answer I was looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Director. Old business, item number 2, passed ordinance number 3079, amending Chapter 5, alcoholic and malt beverages of the Code of Ordinances relative to the purpose, eligibility for license, conditions for issuance of license, approval required, application for approval, granting of approval, suspension or revocation of approval, location and operation generally, and location, operation exemptions upon its second consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and requires a roll call vote, please. Oh, excuse me. Any discussion?
Easy.
I can sense you over there. Any discussion from council?
I wasn't listening. Could you repeat that whole thing?
No, I cannot. Not for you. And any discussion from the public? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 3, passed ordinance number 3080, amending Chapter 12, Human Relations of the Code of Ordinances relative to the Human Rights Commission membership, appointment of members, term of office, and qualifications upon its second consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
moved. Second.
Motion and seconded, and any discussion from council? Or any from the public? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll move to consent calendar. The following items will be acted upon by a voice vote on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the council or public requests that a specific item be considered separately. Are there any requests from council for any specific items? Seeing none. Any from the public? Item number 12. That'd be on the resolution calendar, so we'll get to that next.
Yep.
So any other from the public for the consent calendar? All right, seeing none, I'll look for a motion to approve items 4 through 6 of the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and requires a voice vote. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Now move to the resolution calendar. The following items will be acted upon by a roll call vote on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the council or public requests that a specific item be considered separately. Are there any requests for items on the resolution calendar to be considered separately from the council?
12 and 19.
12 and 19.
Number 9, Mr. Mayor.
Number 9? So 9, 12, and 19. Any others from council? Seeing none, any from the public? Number 10. And number 10. All right, any others from the public? All right, seeing none, look for a motion to approve items 7 through 22 of the resolution calendar, excluding items 9, 10, 12, and 19.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and seconded, and a roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we'll take these in order. Item number 9, resolution approving and adopting amendments to CFD 2257 Personnel Policy, Employee Wellness, and CFD 2159 Personnel Policy Severance Pay. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And second, motion second, and open to discussion from council. Councilman
Mr. Mayor,
Cruz.
for the benefit of some citizens that asked me about this, what appears to be a contradiction, if Ms. Schindel could explain what you explained to me, to the general public, and then on the PTO, what appears to be expiring and then being paid out.
Yes, good evening, Council. So the language in the wellness policy states that employees who don't earn their earned wellness PTO day within that fiscal year in which it was granted, they would lose it. The point behind that was we wanted to encourage employees to take that day off to support employee wellness, mental health, work-life balance. That was the point behind that. The language in the severance policy that kind of goes along with that, I believe it is correct how it's stated. It is stating that if an employee has any balance in their PTO bank, that it would be paid out upon them leaving. However, if according to that wellness policy they've already lost it, there would be no balance to pay out. So it's just paying out that balance if there is any at the time of them leaving.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion from council?
I guess my question would be, Mr. Rogers, if that's written as we wanted to say that, because it was brought to my attention by someone that sounded like it contradicted itself.
As I understand it, it's consistent with the way that Bailey has explained it. That's the way I read it anyway.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bailey. Any other discussion from council? And any from the public? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 10, resolution approving and accepting a warranty deed for property located at 4109 West First Street relative to safety improvements at the Highway 57 and Union Road intersection. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and any discussion from council? Seeing none, any from the public? Just your name, please.
Kim Jordan. Looking at that property and kind of imagining a roundabout going in that area with the northwest wind and the amount of snow and so forth that's going to come through there. The house right now does a very good job of sheltering that area. It's very wide and open, and as you come in from the west into Cedar Falls, there's usually a lot of drifting that comes across First Street from like Benson into Cedar Falls or to Union Road. Just wondering how we're going to address or expect DOT to keep that open, and how, if we're going to do a wide enough roundabout to that area, or if there's still not a less expensive route, you know, potentially flashing lights, rumble strips, if we have the netting for buffering the pickleball, you know, and rumble strips are an issue, but something to slow down that traffic. You know, I'm trying to think of why we wouldn't try some of those practices right now in the interim, just to prevent people from going through there, and see if that is something that's viable so that we can save some money and not go through the detour around and delay the response time that comes in. I do know that there is still services that are being removed from the Sartori property. But yeah, I'm just very concerned about how the northwest winds come through there, the snow that's going to be now very visible because there's no shelter. And it is something, I like to think of the problems before we get into the weeds. That's what makes great city government and us forward thinking in our future. So appreciate all of those thoughts kind of going into the decision-making for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Any other public comment for this item tonight? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Well,
if I make
someone,
comment?
is it for this item?
Huh?
Is it for this item?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I guess Chase, if you could talk to the method that we would route traffic if we and the DOT close part of that street, there'll be a route for ambulance to go through other county roads, state roads,
Mr.
to
Mayor?
hospitals.
I don't think that's
Point of-
relevant to this
yeah.
item, so I'm going to
Okay,
forego that. All right, any other discussion?
I'm just addressing what she brought up.
But it's not relevant to this item, so. Because this is just for the acquisition of the property,
Okay, you're right.
so. Any other discussion for this item? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, item number 12, resolution approving and authorizing the expenditure of funds for the purchase of an aerial platform apparatus for the public safety. For those of you not in the fire or police, that is a fire truck with a big ladder. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And motion seconded and open for discussion from council.
So I asked for this just to have some clarity for the community that don't dig into the weeds or look into the weeds on how this process goes. I don't want to poke on Mr. Heath, but if you could come up and say a few words on the process and how we're looking at a vehicle now that's going to be 3 years down the road, I think, or maybe 4 years down the road.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The build time for an apparatus like this is typically around 3 years. This is a platform aerial apparatus. It's a little bit more involved than a normal pumper, rescue type pumper, so it's going to be like a 3-year build. We sent out bid packages to 6 manufacturers. We had 4 representatives attend a mandatory pre-bid conference. Of those, 2 responded with responsible bids. Toyne Incorporated and Feld Fire. Basically, they both bid the same apparatus. They're a Spartan chassis with a Spartan aerial build. So basically what they do is they get the chassis from the Spartan Motor Company. They send that from that facility over to the aerial facility in Nebraska. Then in Nebraska, they put the aerial on it, and then they send it back to the prospective potential bidder, the successful bidder, to build the body around that. They put the pump on, they put the hose connections and all of the apparatus parts and pieces, and then they put the compartments on finally. With this bid, we had, like I said, 2. Toyne is offering 2 incentive discounts. One, if payments made on the completion of the chassis, which is an $84,000 discount, and then they have an additional discount of $49,377 upon completion of the aerial ladder. So if you recall, when the council approved the bond sale, part of that bond resolution was to apply some of them funds toward the purchase of this apparatus. So that's kind of the way we're set up. The other company had a discount of $152,000 if the full amount was paid upfront within 90 days of signing the contract. I don't know that that's in the best interest of the city, first of all. Second of all, we weren't budgeted for that. So with the incentives that the Toyne company offers, we're at a lower amount than what the full amount is for Feld Fire without any incentives. So that's why we're recommending Toyne for the purchase price of $223,560.11 minus the 2 discounts for an adjusted price of $2,099,416.11.
Very well said. Thank you.
Further questions? Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
Don't go too far, Brian.
He's just got it out for you tonight. Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? All right, seeing none either, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And item number 19, a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a service product agreement for a compost facility management services with T&W Grinding relative to management of the city's compost facility. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and any discussion from council?
Mr. Heath, if you would,
Thank you. I'll try to go through.
well, I guess some of the questions that have been asked, oddly, when I've been at the compost site, is this work that we could insource, and what would be the risk and benefits of insourcing this or staying with a contracted service?
A little history to start with. Prior to 2017, we did that. We had the equipment, we had a small screen, we had a small windrow turner, and the manpower was quite extensive to manage what we had out there. That was prior to going to a daily operation. Prior to 2017, 2016, we were a seasonal compost facility. We operated April, October, November, and we were closed all other times. So our quantities were much less, other than what the arborists brought in, what city employees brought into the facility. We were able to manage that. Well, when we opened it up 7 days a week, our quantities obviously grew. So that required us to go out to contract. That was in 2017 with our first contract. TW Grinding was our original contract. Prior to that, we would bid out on occasion the grinding only, and then we would windrow and process and screen the material. It just got to be too much for in-house staff, so therefore we went to a full-blown contract to manage the facility. We did that in 2016. Fortunately, that contractor was gracious enough to keep the prices low. We had a 4% increase, I think. We had 1 year, we had an 8% increase. Our original contract was a 6-year contract with 3 one-year extensions. And during that time, it did increase about, I think it was 15% total, something like that. Fast forward now to this new RFP, the contract is expired now, and we went out to bid, and we got 3 responsible bids. Actually, 2 responsible bids. One was just way out there. The bid from TW was $200,000. They actually penciled that out, and they indicated that it was going to be approximately $230,000. However, they decided they want to keep our business and lowered that just a little bit to $200,000 annually. That's a base amount. There are fees for additional grinding or additional items that they may be doing. And then the next bid was almost $290,000, and that was from another company, Western Iowa. They are getting into the organics business of composting, grinding, and so they were like $90,000 more. So, and then the last bid came out of a company from Missouri, which was way out of the ballpark at $360,000. One thing this new contract does include is the grinding of all large material. If you've been out there, you'll notice on the north side of the facility we have large logs. That pile's been there before we even started this contract. So we want to keep that separate of anything new. That's going to cost extra money to grind. But all new material, all large logs that are coming in from the beginning of the contract forward will be the responsibility of the contractor. So I think that was in part reason for the higher costs. And we based it on 60,000 cubic yards of material annually, where before we were in the 35 to 40,000 range. So that's where our numbers got so large, I believe. We did have a demonstrator down there. There was a company that came and demonstrated a large grinding machine, and the owner of that company indicated that looking at the facility, he did compliment on how nice it was kept, but he did mention that he thought to manage that was probably a $250,000 process. So we're kind of in the ballpark with what we got now, it sounds like.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Other questions?
Quick question. the pile of existing logs, that will be an additional one-time fee to process that, and is that the intention to?
Yeah,
eventually-
the contract indicates that they have 2 years to get that cleaned up, and that'll open up more space to the north.
Thank you. Mr. Heath, if I may, not that it really matters that much, but sometimes people will harvest logs for splitting firewood and such. What's the timetable of logs disappearing out there with this new contract?
I'm sorry.
When people dump a larger trunk that they maybe want, somebody might come and take some chunks from it. Is that still going to sit there for a little bit, or are they going to be grinding it weekly or daily?
Oh, no, there will be a separate area, and there'll still be opportunity for residents or folks that would like to come in and cut their firewood or whatever. We have allowed that. And then we also allow residents to take out materials as well. So, but yes, we won't just grind it the next day. There will be an opportunity for others to have at it.
Mr. Ganfield, I think to your point, the contractor comes in generally 4 times a year, so quarterly.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Great.
All right,
Appreciate you, gentlemen. Thank you.
thank you.
Any discussion from council? Seeing none. Any from the public? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move on to ordinances. Item number 23, pass an ordinance amending Chapter 19, Streets and Sidewalks of the Code of Ordinances relative to work performed within city right-of-way or property upon its first consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? Just your name, please.
Kim Jordan. On the west entrance of 515 College Street, there is no curb and gutter going up the entrance into Sartori. It's eroding. Wondering if
This is
that
just
could be
related to the
ordinances, if it
Yep.
could also be addressed, at some point. It doesn't represent Cedar Falls very well.
Okay, we'll make sure we get it down to taking that.
All right,
Back up.
thank you.
All right, anyone else for public comment? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 24, pass an ordinance repealing Section 346, Painters or Erectors License of Chapter 3, Advertising, and Section 793, Bond, Guarantee of Service of Chapter 7, Buildings and Building Regulations of the Code of Ordinances upon its first consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? Seeing none, any discussion from the public? Also seeing none, a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 25, pass an ordinance amending Chapter 7, Buildings and Building Regulations of the Code of Ordinances relative to insurance, and Chapter 27, Vehicles for Hire of the Code of Ordinances relative to liability insurance required upon its first consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council?
Just, was it chapter 25 or chapter 27? Not that it matters, but I think you said chapter 27.
Did I say Chapter
Do I have the
27?
wrong one?
Yes. Let the record reflect that it should be Chapter 25.
Then I'm done.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
if I may, I'm just wanting to double check, where does a thing like Uber, does that fall under the taxi cabs, the commercial insurance that they were required, or do residents that have private insurance still qualify? Does anybody know?
Attorney Rogers?
I don't administer this, but it's my understanding that taxi cabs are separate. They're regulated separately.
So a follow-up to that, do we need to regulate anything for that type of function as it becomes a public transit opportunity?
The agreement is a separate agreement between the person using the app and the company, and
Right.
so we are not involved in that transaction.
Anything else, Counselor?
Just that we don't have taxi cabs, but I'll leave it in there, I suppose, for now.
Any others?
Dollies.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Oh, yeah, it's true, they are.
We don't have standard taxi cabs.
You don't have the big
Not
yellow.
the yellow, not the yellow taxis. You don't have yellow cab?
At the goal setting, Dustin.
Sorry, Dollies, I apologize.
Any other discussion from council? And any from the public? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 26, pass an ordinance amending Chapter 7, Buildings and Building Regulations of the Code of Ordinances relative to bond and insurance, Chapter 10, Garbage and Refuse of the Code of Ordinances relative to unlawful dumping, filling on private land, and Chapter 13, Licenses and Business Regulations of the Code of Ordinances relative to bond upon its first consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion from council? Seeing none, any discussion from the public? Also seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll move to allow bills and claims. Do we have a motion to allow bills and claims for September 16th, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion from council? And any from the public? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any council updates and/or announcements?
Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
I'd like to go back to the question I inappropriately was asking. If Mr. Schrage could speak to the routing of traffic if we're tearing apart First and Union for response, if that's a plan.
And just to check quick, Kevin, is there any issue with us? Because this really isn't a council update or announcement.
That is within discretion of the chair.
You get this one.
I wanted to ask. I have a, okay.
Can we all pitch in on this?
There's 6 others of us, you know.
I would like the public to understand that there's a plan of safety to go through or around the intersection. Just,
I'm not gonna. You want your
Get
free
yours.
card
We'll get ours.
sometime?
Huh?
He wants his free card too sometime.
well, I give it to you.
There you go.
It's a question. And
Chase, if you don't mind answering.
I won't be able to answer your question tonight, but when we get to that point in our design process and we know the staging of the intersection, I'll be able to answer it for you.
Okay, but that's certainly a component that's looked at in the process.
Correct.
And then as a follow-up, the DOT has a safety grant on this of quite a bit, a fair bit, to cover the cost?
No safety grant, just DOT funding involved in the project.
Okay. Do you know offhand what that was?
Okay, I'm going to cut you off, Joe. Like, we're not here at this point for the separate conversation. We can talk with him afterwards.
I just want to appease the public, make sure they're...
I know, but it's not in the process of this, so.
Okay.
All right, any other council referrals or announcements? Or not referrals, excuse me, updates or announcements? We'll get to referrals.
I'd like to give a shout out to the contractor that did all the work in between the buildings here. If anybody's got any input knew who did that work or how
I
that all
supervised that project personally from my office.
Did you? Mr. Gaines, any comments on that?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Mr. Schultz. That was city staff that did that. So our own public works folks went in, knocked that out, did a fantastic job. So thank you.
Nice job.
They really did a fantastic
Nice job.
Thank you, Councilmember Schultz. I did have one, so General Manager Susan Abernathy from CFU did send a note. I'll just read it quick because she wanted to thank some work that the library did. So, to staff, thank you so much for your willingness to help our customers with converting their email from the CFU.net platform to another service provider. Change can be very difficult for people, especially when it comes to things like email. We do not take these decisions lightly, however. We know that ultimately this is in the best interest of everyone to switch to a more stable, secure, and reliable email provider. Your willingness to step up and help our community with this big change is commendable. It cannot be overstated how grateful we are for your assistance. You and the library are truly great partners to CFU in providing our community with outstanding services. So quick background, CFU is eliminating the CFU email after years of having talked about it, and the library staff did step up, allow the reference team to, without being asked to say that they will help residents with the transition process, providing hands-on consulting for doing that. So just a big shout out to our library staff for helping out with that. Got my copy. Any other council updates, announcements tonight? All right, we'll move to referrals. council referral. So item number 28, referral to review land use permits and fees. I'll give some quick context, 'cause I apologize. Daryl had submitted this, but I hadn't had the chance to actually get to it before the agenda was due, so I put it on here to make sure we followed the process. Councilmember, well, I guess before we discuss it, we'll just, actually, no, I'll do this first. Would you be open to us kind of discussing it and getting some info from staff before we bring it as a referral to
Yeah, I mean,
council?
I just wanted, well, the reason I brought it forward, there was a discussion with a citizen, and they expressed their frustration with taking down a little tin shed, building another shed that didn't have a foundation. And I thought, well, I want to search our code for land use permit, the fees, and Mr. Mayor, you and I sat down to try to find it, and it's not easy to find. What does it cover? We have a building permit, a land use permit, a demo permit. I mean, we want to lower costs to the citizens to build and prosper and so on. So I think some clarity here would be good, and that's kind of the reason I brought it forward.
Would you mind then, as a path forward, if I work with you on that?
Yeah.
To take a look at it and then?
Yeah.
Would you like to officially withdraw your referral?
Dustin says, no, I shouldn't do that.
No, I'm saying there was no official referral.
Sure we haven't.
I mean, it was just the process to bring it to the table, to the council,
Okay.
to say, there's a concern here, and let's see what we can do.
Okay.
We'll talk more.
Mr. Mayor, just maybe before we get too far down that road, I think Mr. Cruz's referral has some merit to it. Ms. Sheets and I were looking at it today, and Stephanie could probably give you a little bit better of a description, but I don't know that we have it identified well in the ordinance.
Okay. Director Sheets, did you have anything you want to add, or should we touch base offline with it?
Sure. I mean, I can explain what we apply it to and things like that, but we can deal with that, as Administrator Gaines said, in clarifying that.
Okay. We'll take a look at it then.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Anything else? Any other pressing referrals we have tonight? All right. Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Motion seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, everyone.